which has like an indigo color. If you were to extract melanin from the skin, this is what Sheikh Anta Diop did with the pharaohs. It has an inky, indigo color. That's where indigo ink comes, the concept of indigo ink. If you drew it out of your body, it would have like a bluish black color. By the way, black is not a color in the African spectrum. Indigo is. Nothing ever gets black. When you get black, that's God. Look at the colors of the rainbow. You see, we as human beings can only deal with what goes from red to violet. Ultraviolet and infrared are the boundaries of what we will never see going up or going down. Everything vibrates out of our color spectrum from the colors red to the colors purple. And you don't get to be black on earth. You get to be black when you're in the bosom of the creative force. This is Kemetic teaching. And Kemet was the mouth. Inner Africa was the mind. Kemet could only say what Uganda told them to say. Because Egypt didn't exist. That's why when they say about people of other than African descent living, I think that's a joke. Egypt didn't exist. It was part of the Nile River that flowed into the Mediterranean. Through the inundation and through the flood season, through the rainy season, Egypt was created by the flow of the river going north, with it receding, leaving silt, and thousands of years of this constant process, the wear and tear on the land, which again goes to the Osirian drama of Osiris and Set, the war between the two. Eventually what happens is that land wins over and Ptah rises, which is land. So it's the process. Melanin is merely a byproduct. It is what is produced from the dynamic process. You see, Africans said, it's not the goal you seek to attain. It's the process that you attain. Once you get to your journey, give it away. Once you get to your end product, it's like if you worked all your life to get $1 million. It's not the $1 million that you get at the end that's important. It's the process that took you to get it that was important. So what they're saying is that work yourself to get the $1 million, but once you get it, give it away. It's the process that you really were after. Now, that's a whole other concept than what we're dealing with now, because I know a lot of people told me that if they won the Georgia lottery, they wouldn't work no more. Well, that flies in the face of the African philosophy. Because if you won the lottery, the African said, now you have the time to do what God put you on earth for. Did I answer your question? Yes. Yes. Okay. Yes, it would, in a sense. Let me answer both your questions. Let me go back to your first question first. I'm always good at remembering the second question. The first one gave me a problem. Your first question again, please. Of yourself. Can you change it? Increase? Yes. Well, it's going to what you're going after. There is always room for change. Africans never believed in stagnation. Everything is in the process of becoming. Even if we wipe ourselves off the face of the earth, there'll be another form that'll take our place. Nothing ever stands still. If there's one thing that's absolute, nothing is absolute except the fact that it's absolute. There's always chance for change. You can always change the rhythm of your life. And that's what the Netchers represented. The Netchers represented the ability to allow the forces of nature to impact you, to take you to the greater good. So there's always room for change. And unfortunately, that works the other way too. Because you can go from someone positive to someone negative. There's always room. There were 6 phases. They said you had birth, you had growth. Let me see, you had birth, growth. Well, there were 6 phases. The last one was resurrection, decay, and death. Okay, here we go. Birth, growth, aging, death, decay, resurrection. Now, everyone in this room hasn't even gotten halfway there yet. Because death marks the other half. Birth, growth, and aging. And within that capacity, you have time to do what is necessary in life. I have never accepted age as a reason why. I've seen too many of our elders come to sons of brilliance. And when I say son, I mean S-U-N. Sons of brilliance in their age as they get aged. Sometimes it's just written for us as a people. But think of all of our brothers and sisters on the plantations, and being here in Atlanta, we are very close to that. Not that New York is not close. New York is close to going back to the way we were 200 years ago. I'm going to come back and talk to you about that. But think about all those ancestors, not the Harriet Tubmans, not the Booker T. Washingtons, not the ones that have become popular and famous. Think of all the ones that have lived and died within our lineage that we'll never know. Think of those that were willing to take a step knowing they'd be shot down, killed, because they knew that the one behind could take 2 steps. And that the one behind made that courageous decision so the one behind could make 3 steps and further down the line. They never saw, per se, that light. But they were preparing us for that. And there's always room for growth. There's always room for growth in terms of the rhythm of life. All you have to do is change your natural surroundings. But if you don't change your natural surroundings, you can't change your rhythm because you play by your environment. You are what your environment calls you to be. Now, my sister, I've been so busy on this first question, I forgot your second question. Please repeat. Yes. Yes, and the reason why is because everything that you eat in your digestive tract has to be broken down into a liquid. You jumped a step of having your acids or the amino acids have to break it down to make it the proteinic thing that you need. So therefore, when you juice something, you take away a step in digestion. Therefore, the oxygen comes to you quicker through the liquid form because it would have to do it anyway. So you save yourself your metabolism some steps. So yes, it is. Juicing is always better. Fresh is always better than cooked. And if you are going to steam something, after you steam spinach, throw the spinach away, drink the juice. Because everything that you're eating that spinach for is in the water you're throwing away. The spinach becomes the bulk. You don't need that. That's why, you know, one of the most important things, what they call pot liquor. You know, don't throw that pot liquor away. That's what you cook the greens for. Because everything that you need, and I'm afraid to use the word protein, because protein doesn't really exist. Vitamins don't exist. None of that exists. That's all mathematical measurements that we apply to nutrition to somehow figure out what's good and what's bad. But in reality, if you know that fruits and vegetables is what you need, just go with it, and you'll be all right. But the liquid form breaks down digestion. Always remember that everything that is of any good has got to be broken down before it can do any good. And it always has to be broken down into a liquid, and then once it's broken down into a liquid, then it is sent to the areas where it's most needed. Okay? I answer your question, my sister? Yes, my sister. No, they have melanin. They most definitely do. See, this is why when we get caught up in having melanin, having a byproduct, we lose the important thing in life. Life is a process. It's kepra. It is not just a physical thing. It's a process of becoming for all of us. And the thing is that because of their light complexion, and I'll probably get into this as we move along, there are 6 forms of humanity on Earth. The first 2 were known as Australopithecines. The first human beings coming out of the ancestral line was the Australopithecus robustus, Australopithecus gracile. Robustus meaning robust or bigger, gracile meaning getting smaller. Out of the Australopithecine line comes the Homo line, Homo habilis, or the human of ability. These first 3 human beings, the evidence of life on Earth coming out of Africa rests in the fact that you have a human history going back at least 3.5 million. Let me tell you something. When all is said and done, believe me, you're going to go back so many millions of years. Please, don't. See, I always tell people, don't get caught up in dates. Get caught up in chronology. Know what came as the process, but don't give it any dates. Because, see, this is their dating. So if they say 3.5 million, I'd be willing to say 300 million. Don't settle for what they say. In terms of ancient Kemet, the Sphinx was built before the pyramids. The Sphinx, bless you. The Sphinx is at least 10,000 years old, coming out of the Leonid line. But not only that, the Sphinx is not the face of a man. It's the face of a woman. And I have a problem with us looking at this and refusing to say what we see. What's most interesting is that they took the head of a woman and put it on a body of a man. Cat. Because a lion is the male. The lioness, if it didn't have the mane, then it would be the female. But they took, that's how the law of polarity is so clear and so wonderful amongst the Africans. Africans could see everything and everything and all. They had no problems making Kepra a dung beetle, although a dung beetle is not the most attractive essence to look at if you want to tell a story. But if you want to tell the story properly of life, that's the only thing that you can use. So, going back to the different human beings so I can answer your question. Yes, my sister. I'd rather not. But I would never hold back information. Sure, that's fine. Okay. The three human beings can only be found in Africa. Millions of years later, you see Homo erectus in Europe and in America. But you don't see it in America and Europe prior to you seeing it in Africa. The oldest Homo erectus is in Africa. Clearly. Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, parts of Ethiopia, parts of other parts of Africa. You have Homo erectus, the first human being to stand erect. Then, out of this Homo erectus comes Homo sapien. Out of Homo sapien comes Homo sapien sapien. But there's something happening between the human being and the earth. Because when the African, in all of his and her darkness, and all of her and his blackness, begins to leave Africa, they begin to leave where the sun is hottest, the equatorial belt. And as you see this African fanning out, south and north, that's why you see Australians. Australians didn't get straight hair because they mixed with Europeans. Australians got straight hair because of the absence of the sun relaxed their hair. Because biologically speaking, when you're in the hot sun, you need curly hair to divert the harmful rays of the sun. So when you have very curly hair, the harmful rays of the sun gets caught up in the curls and is redirected out. If you have straight hair or wavy hair, in the presence of the sun, it's beating directly down on your scalp and you'll get scalp cancer. So when we began to move away from the heat of the sun, our hair no longer needed to be tightly curled because it wasn't that hot, so it began to relax. Biologically. That has something to do with biology. It has nothing to do with better hair or good hair or all that old nonsense. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with what your body needs to survive. Simple as that. So as we moved into the colder climates, and as we began to move in to, let's say we moved above the 51st parallel, which directly cuts Europe in half, we then realized that we weren't getting the sun. And in not getting the sun, this dark complexion that guarded us, that did not let the harmful rays penetrate to give us skin cancer, this not only didn't allow the bad rays to get in, it didn't allow the good rays to get in either. When the good rays could not penetrate this dark complexion, we began to get rickets or bone deformation because vitamin D could not be produced in our bodies. So over thousands of years, nature loves us, by the way, loves us very dearly. The reason why we became European is because God loves us. Because had we not depigmented ourselves, we would have died. In being able to depigment ourselves, to become lighter, it allowed the little rays of the sun that did come across Europe to be able to penetrate us, keep us alive long enough to create vitamin D. This is why they love milk so much, because they need the vitamin D. Their body craves it because they need it. They need it in geometric progressions for all of the ancestral lines that never got it. But this is what occurs. The melanin is still there, but the process of capturing it is not there. The process of making indole 5 and 6 is reduced when you are of a lighter complexion. Okay? But the melanin is there. That's why when you get caught up on the end product, you lose the importance of the process. They cannot process carbon, TV, or wear black media. When you film, the first thing you tell somebody when they're going to be on TV is what you tell them not to wear. White. Because the lights deflect and I become a blur in white. Black captures the light and shows me exactly as I am. Same thing happens in the sun. When the sun's light and heat energy hits the skin, for African folk with rich melanin, it captures it and brings it into the body and processes it. For Europeans, it bounces off. because there's nothing that will capture it and bring it in. Therefore, they need milk for vitamin D. Therefore, they have melanin, but they have no way to process it. That's why the end product is not important. What's important is your ability to process it. And if you can process it, that's what brings oxygenation. Did I answer your question, my sister? Because that's very important to me for you to understand, because, you see, brothers and sisters, let me tell you something. This ain't about inferiority and superiority. Melanin doesn't make us superior. Come on, let's think about this. If melanin made us superior, would we be in this position? Come on. We wouldn't. Because by the nature of it being superior, we would have found a way to get out of it. But the content is there. And that's why Dr. King is so very important to us. In his version of the content of the character and the building of your character, that's what's going to make you who you are. I would not tell a child because you have melanin you're superior, because that's not true. But you have the potential to be the greatest emanation that the Creator has ever created. You have the potential. Don't lose the potential. And another thing is, I never want to raise myself by stepping on someone else's back. If I'm going to make myself someone, I want to make myself someone for what I do. And not because and see, this is what they have done, and this is why it's so rough. Because you see, they have built themselves on our backs. And now we're straightening up our backs. And now they're slipping off. And they have no place to go but down. Not because I'm knocking them down, but because I told you, get off my back a long time ago. You chose to ride me for your destiny. And now that I'm becoming conscious, my consciousness is making me stand up straight as a human being. And when I stand up straight, you're going to fall off my back. I don't have to throw you off. All I have to do is stand up. And when you do fall off, I'm not going to step on you to make myself better. I'm going to walk off into my own destiny. All of us, I say this for all of us, my brothers and sisters, I say in the collective, we have the potential to do for ourselves. But we must return back to a thought process that allows us to do this. And without our own decipherment of the knowledge that we have, we won't be able to do that. And I think this is something very important. Yes, my brother. Yes. 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 Well, everything that we are because of our environment. Brother's asking in terms of what is it that makes us such a variety of people. You know, we are a variety of people because we are all people. Not only that though, but I believe, you know, and what's interesting is that the Batutsi, which is the individual, Watusi is everybody, Batutsi is one. The Batutsi, who is very tall, and the Twa, who is very short, live in the same vicinity many times. They live within the same forest. The Batutsi worship the Twa, which leads me to believe that the Twa is the beginning and the Batutsi is the end. I believe what you're looking at in Central Africa is a civilization that's gone through its entire conscious stage. And I believe, that's why I believe that we go back 300 million years. I think that Africa has lived and died thousands of times. Civilizations rose and fell, built on top of each other. Civilizations that rose higher than anything that exists today, rose higher and fell, and another one rose and fell as equal, existing for millions of years. And I think that all you have to do is look at the art of Africa. And just think, no one is ever going into Africa to find out. That's why I get a kick out of people who do the census and tell me how many people in Africa. I tell them, look, how are you going to tell me how many people in Africa when you ain't even got the numbers right in the Bronx? I mean, here you living right in the Bronx, you get the numbers right, can't get them right. What makes me think you went into the Ituri forest and counted every African? You going to tell me that China has the most people? You counted every African in Africa? And you don't even know how many people in the Bronx? No, I don't accept that, because, you see, we get a sense of power in numbers. So all they have to do is keep us thinking we few, we minority, and we keep ourselves within a framework where we think, well, we are a minority. We're not a minority, we're the majority. But as long as we allow, as Wade Noble says, others to define ourselves, then we'll never get to the proper answer. Did I answer your question, my brother? Because I could keep that going. I believe that they represent, we are the totality of people. Anything that could happen amongst humans, we not only have done, we're doing it right now. And so we have the Kareem Abdul-Jabbars, the Shaqs. We have all of these different, and unfortunately, you know, they're only focused in sports. Do you know what could happen if we applied that same concept to, you know, I often tell people that if given a chance, and once this information gets into schools, we're going to do in classrooms what Michael Jordan does on the basketball court. Because in his melanated state, I often tell people, you know, Michael Jordan doesn't defy the law of gravity. Michael Jordan, in his melanated state, becomes gravity. And when you are the law, who tells the law but the law what the law can do? So when Michael Jordan, who's going to tell Michael Jordan you can't stay up in the air for 10 seconds? You the law of gravity, brother. You can do what you want to do. You want up there 25 seconds, you can stay up there. If you want to go up there and remain there for a while, you can go up there and remain there for a while. Of course, I got to come back and talk to you about that one also. Yes, my sister. My sister, the pineal gland brought you here. It's so important. You know, I often tell people freedom is not at hand. Your freedom is in your hand. Many times that we allow others to define us. The reality of it is that the pineal gland is constantly working. Right now there is a covering over our pineal gland. It's not like a calcified pineal gland. There's a covering over us. There is a consciousness, but not a consciousness of consciousness. Little by little, we are becoming conscious of our consciousness. And what brought you here today was your consciousness of your consciousness. And whether you realize or not, everything that our ancestors had to do what they did, you have in you right now. I often teach our young people, there is not a thing I'm going to teach you. The only thing I can teach you is that you already know it. And doesn't it make sense? Doesn't it make sense that you carry within your body the billions and billions of all of our ancestors going back to the very first and the beginnings of human beings? Wouldn't it be that we would hand down these genes constantly throughout our lives? You'll never lose them. They're a part of you. They will always be part of you from the very beginnings in Africa right to this day. Not only that, not only do you have from the very beginnings